All right, welcome to this explainer. Let's just dive right in. Think about a dollar bill you might have in your pocket right now. Or, just picture the digital balance sitting right there on your phone screen. Today, the US dollar is absolutely, undeniably one of the most powerful currencies on Earth. But its story actually began long before the United States ever became a global superpower. Today we're going to trace how our modern system of paper bills and lightning-fast digital transactions actually traces its distant, almost microscopic origins back to a single, physical silver coin.
So the crucial question we're going to explore today is how exactly did America's money take over the world? I promise you, it was absolutely not an overnight success. It is this incredible evolutionary journey. We'll be moving from total colonial chaos and monetary confusion all the way to a modern global financial empire. Here is our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the roots of the dollar, a new nation needs money, banking and a divided America, the dollar goes global, and finally, we'll wrap up with the future of the dollar.
Part 1. The roots of the dollar, from chaos to coins. Imagine walking into a 17th century colonial marketplace. Before the American dollar existed, merchants literally had to weigh random bits of silver just to price a barrel of goods. It was total chaos. So, where did the word dollar actually come from? Well, it traces its roots all the way back to 16th century Central European silver mining towns. Workers there were extracting massive amounts of silver from the earth and striking a large, incredibly popular coin known as the thaler. Over time, as this coin crossed borders in different languages, the pronunciation of the word thaler eventually softened and evolved into the word dollar. Now, the European influence crossed the ocean in the form of the Spanish silver dollar, which is famously known as the Piece of Eight. Long before the US even existed, massive wooden sailing ships were bringing these specific silver coins across the Atlantic Ocean. The Piece of Eight circulated widely across the Americas and became one of the absolute most familiar and important forms of payment for merchants just trying to conduct early American commerce. It was the one trusted standard in a world of otherwise very confusing money.
Part 2. A new nation needs money. Forging a monetary identity.
Fast forward to the 1770s. The colonies are in full-blown rebellion, and this brand new nation desperately needs its own money to fight a war. So what do? The Continental Congress tries to solve this immediate crisis by issuing their own paper money, which they called continentals. They used these hand-operating printing presses to just churn out cash to pay for supplies and soldiers. But they made a fatal mistake. They printed way too much. This massive flood of paper completely crashed the market, and the currency rapidly lost its value due to skyrocketing hyperinflation. Simply printing huge stacks of unbacked paper money completely failed as a wartime solution.
Because of that devastating hyperinflation, a famous historical catchphrase was actually born: not worth a continental. This paper money literally faded into dust in the hands of the very merchants and soldiers who needed it most. It became the ultimate symbol of a failed economic experiment, and it deeply scarred early Americans' trust in paper money.
But the currency ultimately survived and adapted. After those disastrous continentals of the 1770s, the young republic hit a huge milestone in 1792 with the Coinage Act. This legislation formally established the US dollar as a stable monetary unit, and they began striking their own official coins at an early US mint. Jump ahead to the 1860s, and to fund the Civil War, the deeply divided federal government had to step in again, issuing a new form of paper money known as United States notes, or greenbacks. So, through major national crises, the dollar was continually transforming and really solidifying its role.
Part 3. Banking and a divided America. Industrialization and centralization.
As America moved through the late 19th century, explosive industrialization, we're talking steam trains, rapidly growing cities, massively expanded the economy. To manage this incredible new economic scale, a major structural shift was required. In 1913, the United States created the Federal Reserve System. You can kind of think of it as the ultimate financial traffic controller, designed to centralize banking and manage the money supply across a massive booming nation. Before this, the banking system was incredibly fragile and prone to these awful panics. The Federal Reserve stepped in to coordinate complex monetary policy, ensuring that as factories grew and trade expanded, the financial system could actually handle the weight of it all.
Part 4. The dollar goes global. World War II to modern dominance.
The true catalyst for international supremacy was the massive logistical and financial shift of the 1940s.
Two pivotal 20th century events propelled the dollar to global supremacy following the creation of the Fed. In 1944, the Bretton Woods Agreement fundamentally restructured global finance. And later, there was a massive turning point in 1971 when gold convertibility ended. Let's unpack exactly how these moments completely changed the world.
At Bretton Woods, delegates from dozens of nations literally mapped out a brand new post-war global economy. Because Europe was utterly devastated by the war, they intentionally placed the intact, highly stable US dollar at the very center of the new system. They effectively connected major global economies directly to American money for stability. Other nations would peg their currencies to the dollar, and the dollar itself was pegged to a specific amount of physical gold. But the rules changed again. Pre-1971, foreign governments could confidently convert their dollars into physical gold, but post-1971, President Richard Nixon shocked the world by ending this. The physical connection to a gold bar was completely broken, and the dollar entered a new fiat era. Now, fiat simply means that the money has value because the government declares it does, and because the people using it actually believe it does. It's backed entirely by trust and the economic strength of the issuing country, rather than a shiny piece of metal sitting in a vault somewhere.
Because of these massive historical shifts, the dollar today operates on both a microscopic and a macroscopic scale. It completely dominates international trade, global finance, central bank reserves, and digital financial networks. When countries buy oil or global commodities anywhere in the world, they usually use US dollars to make that transaction. And hey, this matters immensely to you, because that built-in global demand directly impacts the strength of the currency and, ultimately, the prices you pay at home for imported goods, groceries, or gas.
Part 5. The future of the dollar. From silver to digital.
Today, the dollar's power is fueled by the sheer size of the U.S. economy, global trade routes, and decades of institutional trust. It's an absolutely extraordinary 500-year evolution. We've journeyed from heavy silver thalers struck in 16th century mining towns to paper continentals failing to fund a revolution, all the way to instant digital transactions orbiting the Earth at light speed today. The physical reality of money has fundamentally changed for sure, but the central role of this currency continues to define modern global commerce.
So, the history of the dollar is far from finished. The question is no longer simply how America created its currency out of colonial chaos, but rather how long will the dollar remain at the center of the world's financial system? As global markets continuously shift, new economies rise, and digital currencies emerge, that's a really profound question to ponder. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I hope this leaves you eager to dig in and learn even more about the rich history behind the money right there in your pocket.